Gang Orca brings his Shamu Slamu variety of fighting to the young students during the license exam, and Shoto Todoroki has to team up with Inasa Yoarashi, and guess what? It's pretty freaking epic. Greetings, my superheroes in training. It's time for another review of the My Hero Academia anime series. Before we begin, I just want to give a shout out to my most recently released video, my top 5 wanted newcomers for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Please make sure to check out that video. There's a link for it in the description box below, and there will also be one at the end of this video. So let's go ahead and jump into this episode. Guys, the wait for this episode of My Hero Academia has been astronomical. The fact that we had a filler episode last week sort of deflated my tires. But this week, oh man, it was just on point. Gang Orca finally battling against these students was everything I was hoping it would be, and he battled mostly against Shoto Todoroki and Inasa Yoarashi. One of my favorite things about this scene is that we finally learn why Inasa absolutely hates Shoto Todoroki, and what's really funny about it is that it's something that I actually joked about in a previous review. They made it clear that Inasa does not like Shoto because he seems to hate Endeavor, and it's because at one point in the past, he tried to get an autograph from Endeavor, and Endeavor wouldn't give it to him. Endeavor didn't care. Endeavor don't give a shit. And this was the moment when he finally started hating him. And when he met Shoto Todoroki for the very first time, he noticed that he actually had the same eyes as him, and thus he immediately started hating him. However, I do like that he actually at one point did try to become friends with him. They go back to the original UA exam where they're having this big foot race with Shoto Todoroki and Inasa basically going toe-to-toe with each other, with Shoto using his ice to skid across the ground Iceman style, and Inasa using his wind to propel himself forward. And he actually thought, maybe I can be friends with this guy. Maybe I can actually salvage something. Maybe he's nothing like his father. But at this point in the story, Shoto Todoroki was a different person. He was just in it to win it, just to pass, not to impress anyone, and definitely not to do it for his father. And it was in this moment that Inasa realized that there was no way that he could be friends with this guy, someone who was just like Endeavor. And then here, in this episode, they reluctantly have to team up together to battle against Gang Orca. The main reason for this is because both of their quirks are sort of ideal for dealing with him, as well as all of Gang Orca's cronies, while all of the other students desperately try to save all of the people who are injured and get them away from this giant villain battle. Even Yoshindo gets to do some awesome stuff in this episode by causing all of these big massive earthquakes, just making all of the villains fall all over the place. Yoshindo also reveals that the reason he gets knocked out after using his abilities is basically because his brain gets knocked around every single time he uses those vibrations in the ground, showing that while that is really powerful, wow, that takes a massive toll on his body, but believe it or not, he's actually used to it. But like I said, this episode is mostly dedicated to Shoto Todoroki and Inasa as they reluctantly team up together with their attacks constantly canceling each other out. Every single time Shoto decides to use his fire, it gets blown away by the wind. Things just are not working here and they're completely incompatible. That combined with the fact that Gang Orca is basically just beating the shit out of them with his extreme powers is awesome. So Gang Orca at first, I didn't know what his quirks were actually going to involve, but actually it's quite obvious. He literally just has all of the powers of a killer whale, except amplified in that cool sort of exaggerated anime way. Just like actual killer whales who use sonar to actually talk with each other underwater and communicate, he can actually do the same thing by sending out like this giant ultrasonic wave, which is so powerful it can actually destroy all of Shoto Todoroki's ice, even as it's actually firing towards him. Pretty much any sort of like physical force or even wind, just like Inasa can use, can be blocked by this ability. And that's not even counting the fact that he also just seems to have extreme strength in general. He's just such a creepy and awesome looking guy, and he's able to pretty much just push back everyone in this battle. That and the fact that all of the goons who are actually joining him have these cement guns, which literally fire wet cement on people, which when it gets stuck to their body, of course starts to harden and they can't move. Inasa and Shoto end up getting hit with both of this, and they both end up getting incapacitated here. This is when the big epic moment happens. It happens in almost every single season of My Hero Academia, and I have to say that Season 3 has been making it happen a lot more often than not, and I really appreciate that for it. When Shoto Todoroki and Inasa finally decide to have one last desperate attack and combine their abilities together, they use the wind and the fire to create a massive vortex, which wraps all around Gang Orca, constantly hitting him with fire and wind and drying out his body. Considering that he is a killer whale, he needs to stay wet. Luckily, he keeps a big supply of water bottles with him, which he constantly pours over his head. But that's when frickin' Izuku comes in. Yes, Deku himself, the great hero, decides that he's going to attack Gang Orca as well, and gets one big attack on him by kicking him in the arm, which starts to break the armor, and then the battle's over. The license exam ends right there. And I have to admit, I was a little disappointed at first. I wanted to see more of this battle. I was like, oh, it was finally starting to get good. Especially that Deku finally got involved. But in many ways, I'm kind of glad that they stopped there. I didn't want him to steal the glory away from Shoto and Inasa. The moment where they combine their attacks together is just so freaking amazing. Especially the artwork they use. They use that sort of super sketchy style, which I think always amplifies like just the epicness of these moments. It was just great. So the exam is over, everybody gets back into their civilian uniforms, and everyone's going to learn if they passed or not. They reveal all the names on a big board, and the episode ends on a big cliffhanger right there. Did Deku pass? Did all of the students from UA pass? What's going to happen? We're going to have to find out in the next episode. So what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? I am exhausted after watching this episode, if only because so much actually happened in this one. There's a lot of details I missed, so let's just go ahead and talk about some of the best moments. For me, it's not even really the action, you know? I mean, I really loved that, but I think the moment that sold it for me the most had to be when Deku came in and saved Yoshindo. It was that moment where Shoto and Inasa just were desperately not getting along at all. Shindo was about to be freaking destroyed, and then Deku comes in, saves him, and he just yells at both of them, telling them to knock it off, work together, act like heroes. He didn't really say it like that, but man, you could really just feel it in his emotions and in his voice. This led to both of these characters teaming up together, which was just a really awesome sight. Watching the wind and fire come together to just erupt all the way around Gang Orca was satisfying as all hell. I really loved that moment so much. But a lot of the other heroes get to do a lot of really great things as well. When all of the different students start to team up together to fight against the villains, I think that was one of the more satisfying moments of the episode. Getting to see the big hairy dude Nagamasa in action. I think that's what his name actually is. There's a couple other scenes that really stick out to me in this episode, and that's when they highlight certain students from UA High School and some of the brand new abilities that they're actually using. Ojiro I thought was really cool in this episode. For me, he's always been one of the more plain students from UA, but actually getting to see more of his martial arts style in this episode made me appreciate him a lot more. Tsuyu was also incredible in this episode. She's been hinting that she's been working at some brand new frog-like abilities, and she reveals that she can actually camouflage herself now. She's even increased her physical attacking style so that she can take out multiple people at once. It's easy to see why everyone loves Tsuyu so much. But one of the big standouts for this episode simply just had to be Gang Orca. His overall presence and the way that he uses his ultrasonic waves in a number of different ways, using it almost as a projectile as well, really makes him a unique fighter. And they weren't kidding when they said that this guy looks like a villain. There are so many moments in this episode where he looks absolutely horrifying, but so freaking cool at the same time. I have to say, he has one of my favorite designs from the entire series. The whole thing with Shoto and Inasa, though, like, to me, I thought that was kind of funny. I thought there was going to be something a little deeper there, and I really was joking when I said, like, did Endeavor, like, not give him an autograph or something? I really didn't expect that to be the reason why he hated him so much. But it makes sense these two characters could be friends together, considering that they can really amplify each other's attacks in so many different ways. Shoto Todoroki was also awesome in this episode, not only for the fact that he used some really awesome fire abilities, but he's now starting to simultaneously use his fire and his ice at the same time, using his fire to amplify his attack, but using the ice to actually block attacks from other people. It's really impressive, and I hope to see more of the evolution of that power as we go on. Also, again, they dive a little bit more into Inasa's backstory, showing that he is just passionate about everything. He loves everything. That's what's so great about this character, and probably why I think he's such just like a standout individual. It's also funny that, yeah, they did bring it up that Shoto can't even believe he couldn't remember this guy for how loud and brash he is. But it was in that moment that he realized that if he had to be different from his father, he had to team up with this guy, and it really ended up working in one of the best scenes of the entire series. I loved this episode right here. I loved how it ended. The cliffhanger kind of annoyed the hell out of me, but it's pretty typical for this style of series. I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5. You guys should definitely be checking it out. I would love to get all of your thoughts about it. If any of you watched this episode of My Hero Academia, tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. What did you think about the battle with Gang Orca? If that battle actually would have gone to completion, do you think that they could have fully defeated him, or would have Gang Orca just powered up even more and just given them that killer whale style? What do you hope to see from the rest of My Hero Academia? Do you think that Deku and all the other students passed? Did anyone fail? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.